Hello and welcome to Filter Optional. I am the no filter of the Filter Optional. I'm Chico.
And I'm Shannon. I guess I'm the filter.
I hope you are the filter. You've been my filter for a long time. I still hear the music. Maybe K-Man can crank that down. We're excited. It's Monday, February 3rd, the day after...
The Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, the day after, what is it, Gopher Day? No.
Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day.
Gopher Day. Really?
He's,
Gopher Day?
He looks like a gopher.
That's a first.
Yeah. Who looks like a gopher? The groundhog?
The groundhog from Groundhog
No, it looks
Day.
like a groundhog.
Yes. So this is our podcast, and we are a married couple, and it is a Casa Colina production. And if you don't know what Casa Colina is, it is a male 90-day residential drug and alcohol treatment center
For men.
for men.
Yes.
Just south of our studio, about 32 miles. Our studio is here in Dallas. But we're, you know what is happening? I love KEPX Productions. That is Kevin. He does our producing. He has a great studio. I'm listening. I'm giving a shout out if you want to do a podcast. He does a bunch of different podcasts. He gives you, he kind of sets it up and tees it up for you pretty well.
Because he's a producer.
He is a producer.
All I want you guys to have to worry about is sitting down and talking.
Yes.
Everything else I'll take
That's
care of.
That's a really good thing. Because otherwise it would not happen.
And as a producer, he puts it on our Facebook page. He puts it on iTunes. He's getting ready to get us on Spotify.
Yes.
Which I'm excited about.
Yes, yes.
So the more stuff. But Kevin, I was talking to my buddy last night. I had him talk to Shannon. There's John Eldridge has a podcast, but he has his own app.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It would be interesting. Maybe KEPX could create an app with all your different ones.
I had one at one time,
Yes.
but most people don't want to have to download your app.
I know. Well, that's what, the person you were talking to is on the older side.
Yes, he's in his 50s.
Yes, he's in his 50s. And so he was like, even though I go to the app, I still have to fish for the podcast. And so,
So you walked him through it?
And his wife walked in, who's younger, but she walked in and downloaded it on iTunes on her phone.
Oh, that sounds so much
thank
better.
You. Thank you.
you.
I was
No
trying
problem.
to
If that
do
falls down again, let me know. Come
Okay, I
over
will.
and fix it.
So she downloaded it while we were talking, like 60 seconds, and was like, okay. And so
I'm shocked at how much trouble people still have accessing
I know, it's
podcasts
tough.
these days.
Well, and it's Kevin,
getting better,
you're
but-
young. You're young too. It is a learning curve. For
Yes.
those over, I don't know what age.
Yes.
It's a learning curve even to help other people figure it out,
Oh
though.
my gosh, Chico's killing me right now.
Yeah, what are you doing over there?
We've got ADD in full
I got
effect.
ADD in
Okay,
full effect.
let's go ahead.
wait,
Thank you for the intro.
Yes. No, I got
okay,
a good
go ahead.
intro. I got
Keep
a good
going.
intro.
Okay.
So we were talking last night, talking about this podcast, and we both read a great article. But before I talk about the great article, it was interesting. We got a new juicer at home,
Yes, we did.
and as we had that juicer, I was taking
And it's just a simple, it's not one of those, we do have one of those juicers where you can put all the veggies and all the fruit and everything in it. It's like legit, like juicer. But this is just one that sits on the countertop for like oranges and grapefruit.
We got it.
I just
Can
know.
I know. It's a simple
I'm just
juicer. Yeah.
Super simple juicer.
Super
I'm just
simple.
clarifying.
Yeah. Yes.
But juicer, not like a Vitamix.
No.
We have a Vitamix, but this is a
No,
super
we have a
simple.
super juicer too that has a lot of parts. And I have to qualify this.
Okay, but you can qualify
Okay.
it. So I was
Simple
going to say
juicer,
it's
just
a
for, like,
simple
oranges. Okay.
juicer for oranges
Okay.
or grapefruit. And I'm juicing, and we don't have our lemonade because I made a bold statement this week. I want no sugars. I'm trying to get out of
he got up on Monday morning or Sunday evening.
It was Sunday evening.
And he said,
I'm
I'm giving up sugar. I am not going to have
I-
any more lemonade or root beer.
Yes, and because I put on
This week.
some weight, and I just boom.
Yes.
And we didn't have any, and I was craving some sugary
Sugar,
drink.
yes.
Last night.
Drink.
And she goes, just go juice. Make some orange juice.
That's why I bought the juicer and then the fruit, actually.
Yes.
the
And so
juice.
we had the fruit, and I was putting it together, and I couldn't get it together. and you're just sitting there on the couch watching TV. It's about, I don't know, 7:30, and all of a
Hear that
sudden,
sigh.
I like what you said. I go, I can't figure it out, and I'm being nice.
You're like, it doesn't work. It's broken. It doesn't work. I'm
No,
like,
I did not say
yes,
that.
you said
I
it doesn't work.
I said it's
doesn't
not
work.
working.
It's not working. It's not working. It's not
There's
working.
some key things about words right there.
Okay,
but
Chico.
then what you said is, I'm so angry with you right now.
No, I said when I get up, I'm going to be so angry. I'm going to get so angry. Like
And-
it was making me so angry.
And then you even
Because you had a suspicion it was operator error.
yes, no, I knew it was operator error.
But you
and
said I'm gonna
I
be
was all
so
cozy,
angry.
because I was all cozy in my spot, and you had gotten up
And I said,
and
"It's
left
not
the
working."
TV. You had gone to the refrigerator. You had opened it up. You had made a big bold statement. Did you go to the grocery store today? That's what you said.
Okay, so your anger has a
See?
lot more to do with it. But
So I'm
here's
getting
the deal.
angry now talking
Yes,
about it. Okay.
and you're getting angry, and
you
then
can
you
get to our. You can, Kevin. You might figure out what our topic's going to be today.
it's gonna be
Anger.
anger.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
and then you even said, "I'm gonna get angry. I want to hit you."
Yeah,
you wanted
well,
to
yeah,
hit me.
I did.
Hopefully you don't
yes.
manifest too much of that in the studio.
Yes.
Right. No.
Well,
we
at
won't,
least we
won't.
have
I
some
won't throw
distance
stuff.
between
Yeah.
us.
But that's where.
So, I mean, last
defining
night
anger
you
and
were-
rage. We can
yes.
talk. You were. I was borderlining on rage because. So we're gonna talk about anger today.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk about some of the triggers and of anger and kind of the definition of anger and kind of some things like that. And then
From
what you can do when you're triggered. And
But when
you are one of my triggers, which is really. You're actually one of Beck's triggers too, because we've
know.
had a lot of conversation in our house about anger and with our kids and things like that, and Beck has confessed that Chico is indeed one of his triggers, and he's
think
one
that's
of
a
mine
common
too.
family
Yeah,
dynamic.
right? So,
yes, what the dad?
Yes.
yeah,
It's
that.
the father in you.
And for
but
different reasons,
but
but-
here's the deal: is like,
Yeah.
so our topic is anger. You were angry. The great thing is, I didn't take it on, But what is it all right to be angry?
Okay, so
That is the question,
right, and then I think that Jesse Gable.
I
who-
give a shout out to Jesse.
Yes, who is now in Montana with his own counseling practice, but he has worked for you in the past and with you in the past, and it's just a great man and a wonderful wife and boy. I was going to say little boy. I mean, he's still little, but he's getting so big. But so he's a friend of Casa, but he posted on Facebook, I guess a blog-ish that he wrote, an article that he wrote about anger, and it just really resonated with me.
He didn't write.
He didn't write the first part.
Yes, but he
Then
wrote,
he wrote
that.
the.
the
Yeah.
second
So, he stole, which I'm gonna kind of read a little bit from the. What's the institute called?
The Gottman
The Gottman Institute. Yes, sorry, that slipped me for a second. The Gottman Institute has a blog, and they wrote in this, but it's from the Marriage Minute, in the Dance of Anger by Dr. Harriet Lerner. I want to give credit where credit is due, but she wrote, "Anger is neither legitimate nor illegitimate." Okay, so meaning nor pointless. Anger simply is. To ask, is my anger legitimate, is similar to asking, do I have the right to be thirsty? After all, I just had a glass of water 15 minutes ago. Surely my thirst is not legitimate. And besides, what's the point of getting thirsty when I can't get anything to drink now anyways? Anger is something we feel. It exists for a reason and always deserves our respect and attention. We all have the right to everything we feel, and certainly our anger is no exception. So it's like, is it legitimate or illegitimate? And she is saying that it's neither,
Yeah,
which I think is so
and it's not either good nor bad. It's just
Right.
anger.
right. And so as I started pondering all this, as we do, Chico and I kind of take our separate corners when we ponder topics on this podcast, and then that's kind of what makes it so unscripted and filter optional. Because when we come together, we kind of talk about these things. But in our podcast in the past, we have just kind of decided as a family too to steer away from labeling things good and bad anyway. They're healthy or unhealthy. right?
Or right or wrong. It's not good, bad,
We
or
don't
right
want
or wrong.
right or wrong or good or bad or anything like that. But it got me thinking that with this anger is that anger is not aggressiveness. It can lead to aggression, but anger is not aggressiveness. And I think that having boys, I want to talk as a parent, and then I'll talk as personally, and you can share as personally too what anger means in your life. Or
Are you going to
whatever.
talk as a woman?
Yeah, that's what I mean personally.
Okay, good.
I am a woman. I don't identify as anything else.
Hear me roar.
I know, yeah. I mean,
You are female.
I know these days
Hear
I could
you
speak
roar.
as they or he or him or whatever I choose to. I could do that.
But
and that
I'm
would
glad.
Be
I'm
legitimate.
glad.
That would be valid. But
I don't
yes.
know. I don't know if it's legitimate.
Well,
It's
I'm
not.
going to, yes, talk about it as a woman, but as a parent, I think that, and as a woman, having boys, I don't want them to be angry. I never wanted them to be angry because in my mind, it leads to what probably is rage, which so we can talk about kind of the difference, but I didn't want my boys to be angry because then they were going to do things that I considered socially unacceptable or
Maybe your codependency would come up.
sure, or they'd be
Flare.
Yes, they would break stuff or yell at people or bite kids or pull their hair or
Or hit each other
or hit each other and
and scream.
yes,
You know that the other night I stopped by Gordo's house, and he has 4 boys,
Yes.
2 sets of twins, and then
Yes.
this little girl.
yes,
And they were all downstairs, and Jill's there. And I saw Jill. I just started laughing because Jill was going, "Quit throwing the ball!" I mean, and there was this,
Yes.
the 2 older boys and the 2 younger boys, and they're just being boys.
yes.
And I just start laughing. She goes, "Why are you laughing?" I go, "It sounds the same in my house, and there's only 1 boy left there."
Right, right. Now we have boy dogs though that
Yes.
get into it together. So
And
then
they're aggressive.
It goes to that. Not boys will be boys. I just hate that. We've talked about that before. I like boys are boys. Okay,
Yes.
boys are boys. And so, but this just really resonated with me that anger is not good or bad. It needs to be. And so Jesse said, I want to give him credit, but he said, the feeling is going to happen whether we want it or not. It's more important to understand what we do with it when it arrives. So that kind of leads me to talking about triggers. I think that we all have triggers.
Anger
to anger.
is.
Anger is. Yeah, anger is. That's what he said. But so what do you mean by that?
It's a feeling.
Right.
Just like fear's a feeling, just like pain's a feeling. Shame, guilt, loneliness, joy.
Right.
Those are feelings. Anger, it's not good, bad, right or wrong.
Right.
It's a feeling. You can't
It's
stop
like
that
fear
feeling.
is. You can't stop from being fearful. If you're sitting in a scary movie or whatever, there is no way to stop that feeling of fear, no matter what you do. When you put your kid on an airplane or in a car for the first time, when you hand them the keys and they go off in a car, there's probably no real way to control that feeling of fear. So you can't control your feelings of anger either when they come up.
But you can pause.
You can pause because I think that, and I think anger is different from rage.
Oh,
And so
I agree with you.
You have to try to steer. And then he does say this in his notes too. I hate to keep reading all of this, but it is so good. This post is discussing anger, not rage. Rage happens when anger and other feelings have been suppressed for a period of time. The body then forces these feelings out through the visceral reaction of rage. So that encourages me as a parent to make sure that I am on top of letting my child feel anger because I don't want it to turn into rage. Because rage is what happens when you have the school shootings and the things like that.
Someone goes postal.
Yes, that's rage. And you don't want that, obviously. But
anger, it's not going back to. I want to repeat. Sometimes I like repeating because
Yes,
then it
I
goes in.
agree.
It's neither bad, good, right, or wrong. I grew up in a family system where my dad was the oldest of 6 boys. I was
Yes.
thinking about that, and there was really 2 feelings that were shared growing up. I think about that when I tell my story. I have a lot of fond memories of where my dad grew up, Rio Vista, and going out there on the weekends and doing the family stuff. And And man, we'd play football games and stuff like that. And there would be, it's either we're happy or we're pissed. We're happy or we're angry. There wasn't any other feelings. Sometimes underneath that anger, it was this rage and stuff like that. But
Right.
anger, it's all right to be angry. You know, what does the Bible say? The Bible says, be angry, yet do not sin in your anger.
This righteous anger. And as I grew in my faith journey, I didn't realize that anger was okay until probably end of college or out of college, when everyone was saying, just
When you started
go read
dating
about
me.
well, yeah, that's about the time. Yep. So there is a correlation, probably.
Maybe there's
but
a correlation. You realized it was
yes,
all right
there was
to,
a correlation
because you started
and-
dating me right after college.
Yes, that's true. But I just I love the Psalms. I've always loved the Psalms until I got into a pretty formal Bible study that led me through the Bible. You have to study it. It's hard to do on your own. I mean, you can read it on your own, and I definitely use it as a tool in my own life now. But it is nice to have it for those out there that don't know how to pick up the Bible and read it. I'd encourage you to do some sort of guided Bible study that asks questions and do all that kind of stuff, because I've always loved the Psalms because they're easy to read. But you realize that there are Psalms of lament. I mean, David was angry. He was an angry dude a lot of times, and God said it was okay. He said it was okay. And,
Well,
it was a righteous anger, right? I mean,
And it's not just righteous anger; it's just it's
just
the
a
deal.
feeling.
It's
Right,
a feeling,
again, back
and
to
the
that.
the
But,
deal is, I like that you said, like you're talking about Bible study and stuff like that. It's like getting curious, asking questions. So when you're angry, if you can step back and pause,
yes.
and go all of a sudden, hey, where is this anger coming from?
Right.
A lot of times you can tell it. I might have anger that I didn't even realize. And one way to understand that is if I'm driving real aggressive. I drove here today and it was chill.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a hurry. I was focused. I was listening to some podcast. Another great podcast is Bank Robber Diaries.
Yeah.
But that's just a little
Okay.
sidebar.
Yes.
Maybe it's a little commercial. Bank Robber Diaries.
Okay.
Joe Laura.
So
It's good.
yeah, but in the car you can go from anger to rage if you don't pause.
Yes, and we hear about it.
Road
rage.
rage. Right.
But anger is like if you can pause and ask, okay, where is this coming from? What is it affecting? Because a lot of times our anger, if we don't understand where it's coming from, it can turn into resentments.
Yes.
And resentments, man, for me, like the alcoholic, it's our number one offender.
Right. But I think you have to identify your triggers first for anger, which for me takes pen to paper, which is nice. I think journaling is a great thing, and I think everybody should participate in it. And like we talked about restlessness a couple of podcasts ago, which we said that there's no one that doesn't struggle with restlessness, and we have found one person that I think we're going to get on the podcast to see if she can prove.
There is no way I know.
I know, but I do think that there are people that can say that they or try to say that they don't deal with anger ever either.
That's just not.
It's just not
true.
true. And so I think that everyone should take pen to paper, maybe if that's how you sort things out in your head, and try to figure out what your triggers are. We made our youngest son do that exercise. I was going to text Travis today and have him do that exercise, and I still will. But and I was trying to do that exercise of identifying my triggers. I think you just mentioned one that I didn't write down, but driving can be one for sure. I mean, I think that can be one for anybody.
But going back to last night, how we opened this episode, the other thing is, if you can identify it, it takes away its power.
Right.
You were angry with me because I was getting you up off the couch. You were comfortable. You had chilled. You'd worked all day,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden, it's something simple I was making complicated.
Well, right, but the what I was going to say next is that if you can identify your triggers. Okay, so let's just use you. You're one of mine. Okay.
Yes.
So, I can identify that.
You're one of mine.
And then you're supposed to. It's nice to take note of your physical response, like your heartbeat, your heart rate. Your whatever your feelings of anger coming up, whatever's bubbling up. and there was some stuff bubbling up on the couch. I mean, my heart was starting to race. I was really starting to feel angry. And so then you need to have a plan or a strategy, and then you need to practice it. And so I felt like that last night was sort of a practice. I mean, I wasn't really that angry, but it was very frustrating, which I know is not a feeling. So,
Well, it could be a multitude of feelings.
well, yeah, but so I think if you identify them and then notice what's going on physically with you, especially like even if you're driving, like a trigger for me is driving, a trigger for me is lying. When people lie, and then another trigger for me that I think is for you too, that is kind of broad, but is like a complacency with like laws. And for you, you don't really get triggered by people breaking the law because you're one of those lawbreakers. But and I'm a rule follower. But like with drinking, like with
Drinking and driving is where I get angry.
no, I know, but I'm talking about like what made me so angry over the holidays when my car was wrecked. And what made me angry was not that my car was wrecked. I don't care about my car. But what brought up the feelings, that the trigger for me was the drinking and the driving and wrecking my car, the reckless behavior that comes along with addiction. And, we've seen just so much hurt. And
what
you know
it
I'm saying?
was, and I could be wrong, but I know for me, this family, down in San Antonio, that just discounted what appeared to us their
Right.
son's behavior.
Yes.
And they
that
pushed
makes
it
me
on.
angry.
They
Yes.
pushed it under
when
the
people
rug.
don't take personal responsibility
Yes.
for their side of the street and their actions, that gets me angry.
And to say,
It's a
well,
trigger.
okay, that's boys will be boys, or
Yeah.
he's 21. Okay, he made a mistake, and I had to become accountable with you. But everybody
of.
kind of covered it up.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
that's-
and I don't want to delve too much into the details of that particular situation, but that triggered me. It got my heart rate going and whatever. And the only person that anger is hurting is me, you
Yes.
know?
And
And
we
so
give
my
away our
response to
power.
it, yeah, and I gave the situation all the power, and it just, but then the follow-up continued to trigger me, obviously, because of the requests that were being made and things
Yeah,
like that.
The funny thing is, I'm thinking about anger, okay,
Yeah.
right now. I mean, because we're talking about it.
Yes.
And I deal with it all the time with families, and we're getting ready to do Family Week this week with, Casa Families. And, I have my feelings board, and we've talked about that on a previous episode. And you used the word frustrated. And a lot of people struggle with identifying that they're angry. They want to qualify it, with frustrated or
I think
other
they
things.
see it as a bad word.
Yes, it's good,
That's
bad,
what we're
right, or
talking
wrong.
about. I don't
It's-
want to say that I'm angry because I'm not really identifying it as that, because I equate that with rage, and and you don't want to be a person of rage because that's bad,
Yes.
and rage is bad, and or unhealthy. Let me
Right.
go back and correct myself.
Good. I'm glad, because I was getting
So,
ready to
yeah.
correct you.
So
because
rage
it-
is unhealthy. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why I'm saying if people can identify their triggers and then embrace the fact that anger is just a feeling and that it's okay to be angry.
But where I
And
was
that it
going,
just is. Yeah,
it
go
just is where I was going is, Shannon, so many times people, I can tell, I'm sitting in there, I'm sitting, in my counseling office, I'm sitting, with families doing a big group, and people are not all right with saying, you know what, I am angry. I felt anger. And I think back to a friend of ours. She just turned, 60 this month, Anita Devlin. So give a shout out to
Yes,
Anita.
we love Anita.
And I love her son, Mike. And I love what Mike said is, Mike and Mike were in treatment together, and they're breaking up the families and saying, okay, in four corners, what feeling? And, fear or pain or shame. And the one corner over here is anger. And Anita was the only one that's angry, and it was like, all right, that she's the only one that was, man, I'm angry
Right.
at the decision and these drugs and what they've done to my son
Yeah.
and all this. And and I'm not breaking their anonymity because they have spoken nationally. They've
Yes,
written a book
I would love to
about
have
it.
Deb on here actually
Yes.
talking about sports and stuff.
Yes,
Um,
and
yeah.
Mike and Anita wrote a book called "Sober, Son of a Bitch, Everything's Real."
Yes.
In her book, in their book, it's their
Yes.
book. She talks about how she was angry, and it was like freeing, and it gave her the ability to write a book to help others.
Yes.
Talking about a mother and a son's journey through addiction, and they're both going through it in the sense that she's the mother of the addict.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
And
But
she talks about it socially, and all the social stigmas and things like that came along with that, and with her friends and everything else. And it's so important because people will suppress their anger at the disease if they don't want people to know.
But here's the
Anyway,
deal.
and
Let's
things
talk
like that,
about
but
the
yeah.
gift. That her anger
yes.
gave her the gift of strength,
Well-
where she got fired up to write a book with her son.
Well, and I was going to say it gave her freedom too. I mean, we all know
Yes.
when we're locked in our own jail and we don't know that we have the keys sitting right next to us. Picture yourself in a prison and you think that the guards have the keys to unlock it, but you do. You actually have them sitting right there, but you're not using them to unlock. And she used the keys in her own prison to unlock.
Yes, and the gift of anger is that strength,
Yeah.
and she got out. She got some freedom, but speaking, but giving a voice to it, and
Yes.
she wasn't worried about good, bad, right, or wrong. She was just going, man, I am angry.
Well, and I think giving a voice to it just last night in that petty. Well, and I think another thing is that
Amen.
people think that there are petty examples. I don't think that there are necessarily petty examples of anger. Like I was genuinely getting angry, and so but I'm going to use that example saying that me voicing that took it away from me, but it also, it caused you to be like, figure it out. Like you've all of a sudden when I came walking up and I did it, and then you were like, oh, okay, do. But but I just expressing it was the key out of my prison.
Yes, and here's the deal. You didn't go to
acknowledging
bed
it.
with it. You didn't go to bed
No.
angry with me. You didn't build a resentment. A lot of times those kind of things can build a resentment in marriage.
Even
if
though
we're
it's
not
so small, even though
Yeah.
it really is a small detail, but it was taking a chunk out of my night.
Well, you-
When you chip away at my, serenity, I
Yes,
guess.
but here's the
So-
deal. It's that little example that begins to chip away, but then we build a narrative in our head. And you could build a narrative, man, is he a dumbass? Is he always going to be this way? Blah blah. You could build a whole case why you have resentments towards me. But anger just is anger. It is. And the deal is when I can begin to identify, when I can pause and step back, and recognize it and then, own it.
Yes.
It'll take away that power, and that's what I love about what Anita and Mike did in the book when they wrote "Sober, Son of a Bitch, Everything's Real." She was all right with expressing it, putting pen to paper,
Right.
like you said,
Yes.
and was able to talk about how she was angry.
Yes.
And in the book, she gives a good illustration as like, okay, her friend goes, Anita, you can still be angry, but is that really going to help Mike? When
Right.
he was out there using.
Right. Right.
Let's do something about it. So anger, the gift of anger is that strength, and can we do something about it? That each of us have things that we're angry about. So my anger sometimes I give way too much power in my industry when people are doing things that I don't agree with.
Right. Yes.
And that and what it's doing is it's robbing joy from me, and it's
Yes.
like, why the hell am I fucking wasting my time?
Wow.
But it's just like, hey, I can't control any of these other people.
Right. No, I know. It's all about power.
Yeah, and it becomes that power struggle, and the deal is I gotta let go of that. People are gonna be people. I am gonna be people. I am gonna piss people off.
Yes, and see, since I approach life from a different, Enneagram number and direction, like you get pissed, and you get angry, and I do get angry eventually, but I just can't stand it when people aren't following through and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so then I get into patterns of shoveling that anger. Like I don't, you at least get it out. You do, it may be an unhealthy
And then I have to go back and make
exhibition,
amends, and
yes,
then I have to
of your anger.
you know.
But I end up putting it inside and then, you know,
Well, and that's what it's like, I'm not saying everybody has the disease, but I mean, codependency is powerful, and that's what the codependent usually does is
Yes.
they push it down. But the
that's
good
why
thing
I'm
is,
saying is identify your triggers. You just said one of your triggers is when people do things in the industry that are, wrong. That doesn't make me angry because that's not really my day-to-day.
yeah.
That's not a trigger for me. But so I just think everybody needs to identify their triggers and then figure out how to.
And not give it power.
Right.
But the cool thing is going back to the accident with the young man that was
Yes.
drunk and, smashed your car. It's like, I was all right. You were angry, a lot more angry than I was. And it's
Because
not good.
I didn't pause at all.
But even after the fact, the next
Yes,
day
that's
and
true.
stuff like
Yes,
that. And
because-
it's like, you even asked me, how come you're not angry?
Right, I did.
And I was going, I was all right with your anger. I didn't say don't be angry. I
know,
didn't
I
do
know.
any of those things. And it was good for you that you were able to do it. I go, Shannon, I'm going to take care of it. I'll deal with the family. I'll do all this stuff.
Yes.
And then even after we get the car back, there was, some more anger
Yes.
and you process that.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know.
Yeah, 2 episodes ago, Shannon came in hot. I
I
remember
did.
that.
I did.
She
Oh,
was.
I was. And I think with
But you were able to
think
share it,
Yeah. Yes.
and it,
Not that it's legitimate or illegitimate, but it just was.
it just
was.
it just was the anger.
Yes.
And it was like, and I can understand why it would piss you off.
Yes.
I didn't give it the power. It's just like people in the industry, when they do things, it's like, okay, let go of that.
I know.
Yeah. you don't take that. And that was good. It's like, I was all right. You can be angry.
Right. No, I know.
I didn't try to stop you. And
I'm still surprised you weren't more angry, but that's okay. I mean, that's good.
yeah. Well, but it's neither. I don't know if it's good, bad, right,
I
or wrong.
just had to work through it. I had to work through it.
Yes, and it's like, but here's the deal: when we work through it, then we can laugh
It's
about
because
it.
it's one of my triggers is when people don't take personal responsibility. I mean, I've realized that. Okay, so my triggers are that personal responsibility. I think some driving. I think you.
I think you just have some overall accountability as a sore spot.
Yeah, I think so. And so there's just
And you give it power, and then you get angry.
yes.
And that's just it.
Well, now, I mean, I do think that people not need to give power to their anger, but in order to work through it, you have to give power to it. I mean,
yes,
for a second.
yeah, but what I mean is like I
yeah.
give power to people in the industry when they waive deductibles or a client you might be working on that goes to another program
Trigger.
and those triggers.
Trigger.
It's like boom.
Trigger.
But I
Yeah.
don't need to give that power.
I know you don't, but you do.
Oh, I do.
Okay, so I
And-
think, I mean, I want everybody to understand that there's no way to not give your feelings power.
Amen.
Okay.
Yeah. But it goes back to that question you were going, I don't understand how come you weren't more upset.
I know, just because of I would think that would be, that is a trigger of yours.
It is. It's not as big a trigger. I have other triggers. It's this sense of justice.
No, the drinking and the driving.
Drinking and driving is a
Trigger.
Is a
that's,
trigger.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I mean, I'm very thankful that you weren't triggered. I mean, I was triggered that night because it had been we had the longest day and a great day, and it was whatever. It was so fun. And then I was like, what just happened? And then anyway.
Yeah. Well, it you know what I think your
just-
bigger trigger was? It messed up your plans, your routine.
Completely. Oh,
when your
totally
plans and
rocked-
routine
yes,
are
yes,
are
yes,
messed
yes,
up,
yes.
and when you came in hot a couple weeks ago, it was your routine was messed
Yes,
up,
and
it
you-
wasn't
You, yes, you and Travis, that's not a trigger for you. I think it is for Beck and I.
Yes.
And so I didn't know how I was getting home the next day. And, you and Travis are like, Mom,
Yeah.
calm down. No big deal. Like, whatever. I mean,
But you
I'm like, calm down.
but then a couple weeks ago, after we got the car back, you were triggered because it messed your plan and your routine.
It sure did.
And so in a way, that's that sense of justice. But getting back to, it's like, okay, what do we need to do? We got to pause and go, okay, what's going on? This is messing with my plan and my routine.
Yes.
That example for you. I got examples for me. Why am I given this power?
Right.
And I can be angry, but I don't need to give it power because then it builds into resentment.
But I am going to have, so I had Beck's kind of done this exercise and he's identified his triggers that I won't out on, except for you, on our podcast.
I'm a trigger
I won't
to him.
I won't out his triggers because then if anybody finds out and then it seems that people in high school or teenagers like to use people's triggers against them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, they do in
That
high
would be
school.
exploited.
They do in high school,
exploit
but here,
triggers, yeah,
let me
but-
pause for a
okay.
second. They do in high school, but they do at my age. At
Yeah, they
50.
do. That's true.
I
That's
mean,
true. Moms do
Jim,
it. Women do it. To each other.
Jim
Clap.
Clap. It knows my triggers,
That's
and
true.
I call them my kryptonite. I mean, it's just like I give away my power.
Well,
to
and
him.
he calls you the social assassin, and he is a huge fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm
Yes.
and Larry David, and Chico is the Larry David of Lakewood.
I could see that.
You know what I'm saying? And so Jim loves to watch his own sitcom by triggering Chico.
Oh, he triggers me, and I mean, but
it's a
the deal
thing,
is, I
but-
don't have the testosterone, and I'm not going through all the emotions that Beck is at 16 years
No, right.
old, and my brain's not exploding. It's kind of gone
But
the
so I
downward
just-
spiral.
But so my call out to anyone listening, if I can give a little, like a assignment or whatever that I'm going to give to Travis, is to put pen to paper to really meditate on what triggers your anger, because we all have it, and then figure out the physical responses that you have, because we all have different ones. I mean, whether it's middle fingers or heart racing or crying. Some people just start crying.
Or some people withdraw and they turn it into silent rage. There's
Right.
external,
Right.
overt rage. There
Yes.
can be silent rage. And rage, lots of time, I don't even think it's intense anger. I believe it's rooted in these three feelings: fear, pain, and shame, all coming together.
Yes, probably.
And it just is an explosion, and it's hot, and it's like a burning
Yes.
sensation.
So
Yeah, there can
figure-
definitely be passive aggressive rage.
Oh,
Yes,
Big
for
time.
sure. So
But
figure out. Okay, can I just finish?
Yes.
So I want to have him figure out his physical responses, because Travis is a pretty chill guy. It's not like he flies off the handle like you do, and
I don't
whatever.
fly off the handle
Well,
sometimes,
Sometimes.
but not really.
but and then you're not as quick to anger, but when you do, anyway. And then have a plan or a strategy. Figure out how you're going to address it, and then practice that. Put it to practice.
I think putting that to practice. The other thing is, those are great tips. Put pen to paper, look at your triggers, recognize those. But then another tip that I want to help people with is, when you see your anger, it's all right to be angry. Do not minimize it. Do not qualify it. Do
That's-
not say, "Hey, I'm frustrated." It's all right to tell. It's all right to tell your spouse, "I'm angry right now."
Right.
It's all right to tell your business partner, your friend, "I'm angry."
And then-
In our society, we don't give people permission because we think that anger is a bad thing.
Right.
We
We
think
shouldn't be that way.
yes. And so the other thing is, when you're angry, try to pause. Try to pause for 10 seconds.
Yes.
Try to pause and see what is happening.
Well,
Yeah.
that goes along with the strategy.
Yes.
That's the
and,
strategy.
And then you'll get the gift of strength. And so we've given shout outs, but Hey, a good book to read is Sober, Son of a Bitch, Everything's Real by Anita and Mike Devlin. It's a mother and son book. She
Yes.
talks about her anger. You know, that is a good thing. She is able to express that.
Yep.
You know, but then you see her, it's a good illustration of just kind of walking through that.
Right. I agree.
You know, I like it because we don't give it. I love this topic because it is all right to be angry, and people don't see that. Be angry, yet do not sin. That's Ephesians 4 right there.
Yep.
We need to be all right with being angry
Okay.
and recognizing.
You're kind of
those things.
repeating yourself now. I'm going to get angry. I'm starting to feel a trigger.
Well, I'm waiting for him to kind of
No.
tune us out. There we go. And
Yeah,
that's
I'm
a
like,
wrap.
Chico's
and
gonna
I'm
repeat
not
himself again
fucking
and
angry
again
right
and
now.
Again and again and again. Okay.
Yes.
Until next time.
Until next time, this is Filter Optional. Take it away.